So then metta or maitri is love that you give, that you radiate in anticipation of nothing in return. You don't expect anything in return when you do maitri or metta to others. And Brahma would say, Brahma wouldn't expect anything from you, and he would radiate metta towards the whole universe. So see the fascinating way that Buddha put it. He humanized the idea of Brahman. So Sufi Muslims have a similar way. Sufis are most Sufi Muslims live in Turkey, I guess, Egypt, and then when they read the Quran, and I know some Sufi friends, and they are persecuted in most of places for the simple reason that they believe that God is in their heart. Right? When they do the Quranic recitals, that's how they do that, right? And at times, Sufis would do this. They would touch their chest, heart, okay, like this. To them, their God is kind of internalized. That's the fundamental reason Sufis get into trouble with others, because to them God is something internal. Sufis, because they are mystics, they are meditators. In any form of mysticism, because Buddhism is also a kind of mysticism. In mysticism, any idea, any cosmic reality is reduced to human level and internalized. So far, going around humanizing divinity. Remember, when we go back to certain concepts that we revisit certain concepts that we discussed in our previous session, we look at nirvana as something humanized. We saw samsara as something humanized. Remember of the samsara, right? This is a pre-Buddhist term. When Buddha borrowed the term human samsara, and then he so that he didn't accept that vertical connection to Brahman. Instead, samsara is that you walk through different life forms, acquire different physical bodies, at times being human, at times being divine, at times being something else, anything else based on your karma and your intention and all that. So, and then that's one concept, and then you can incorporate those. Give me 5 minutes to incorporate those ideas into this humanizing thing. Right? Samsara is one, nirvana is another one. Nirvana was a pre-Buddhist concept, but again, nirvana was something that was, like many other concepts, was necessarily connected to Brahman, and then so to remove that vertical thing. And even the highest form of salvation that people live was that world of the formlessness. Remember we did talk about that, the highest Brahma world, where you can stay, you can live, reside for an indefinite period of time, but without a physical body. Your mind remains there, and so that, and Buddha said, no, still that's not salvation. One day you have to come back, and so that you are so skillful that as you are drowning, so that you can save yourself from the deep end in the swimming pool. I always like that deep end analogy. At times even swimming experts drown the moment they lose their focus, right? Or maybe due to a leg cramping, whatever. I know some who actually drown. So, and there's one thing, even that Brahma, the highest Brahma world of the formlessness, the formless Brahma world, Hindu terms, or the rebirth in Buddhist terms. They all fall within this humanization, and you humanize those. That's what Buddha did. So that is where time simply, just like we had that chat during the break also. Nowadays, world, and then there are humanistic movement in the world. That's what I was telling him once at Cambridge. I was invited. I was not a religious person because I was a student, so that they asked me to come and give a talk first. That's organized by a group of humanists. And they asked me about what humanism is, and as I believe, I explained all those things. I said, if you are a humanist in Buddhism, then I explained what I was already explained. Then I added that as a humanist, my own way as a Buddhist, I always leave space for people from other faiths, non-believers, atheists, anti-religious people, anyone, so that they can come to my space, and then I easily accommodate them within my comfort zone, my humanistic comfort zone, I said. And because someone stood up and said, okay, you are not humanist in that sense. I said, then I explained to them, do you accommodate other people within your belief of humanism, or do you get angry? And then then I answered them. She went back to her seat, and she wouldn't talk anymore, and she wouldn't even look at me. And then later on, during the break, I said, sorry if I apologize to you in case I offended you. No, you didn't apologize. Actually, I felt shame of me then, because I shouldn't have that question. And she said, then I explained, okay, there could be then different humanisms. Then I said that, okay, you could be pro-humanistic humanism, anti-humanistic humanism, right? Because I did linguistics, so that I could really coin those terms. Then I said, okay, well, I'm not offending you. To me, I think I am believing in a kind of humanistic humanism. Sorry, but people come up with those ideas and theories as they defend them, finally, and then so that you make me to come up with a multitude of adjectives that I would use to explain one single noun that you just told me. So that's how the humanism is. So those are the concepts that Buddha incorporated into it. That's how, if you want to call Buddhism, and actually in one of the new Buddhist movement is humanistic. That is when Venerable Master Xingyun of Fo Guan Shan Monastery in Taiwan, and he's the one who founded humanistic Buddhism. And I met him twice in California. Twice in California, once in Singapore. So the Master Xingyun, I had a personal dialogue with him. That's what he talks about, almost what we have talked about here. So, and then through his interpreter, and then he told me that his form of humanism is spiritual humanism. Spirituality must be accommodated. Even if you are not spiritual, and then you have to accommodate, you have to have space reserved for others. Accommodate means you respect. So, and then metta, unconditional love. What would be the opposite of, and Buddha never talked about standard opposite tendencies, but you could come across those opposite negative tendencies of these four divine principles, so that if they are principles, there are no bad negative principles, right? So the opposite tendency, as a human, according to Buddhist psychology, Abhidharma, metta is one of the 52 built-in human tendencies of the mind, or the tendencies of the human mind. So we are born with that natural tendency of friendship. In scientific terms, we have friendship brain cells that makes us feel friendly towards someone, like spiritual brain cells. So the brain contains cells that govern multiple areas of our life, our existence, our selfhood. So the opposite of Maitri, metta, is hatred. And for that, there's this Pali word. Vaira, Sanskrit, Vera, is Pali, metta. The opposite of metta is Vaira. That is hatred. Dosa, anger. Actually, dosa is one of the root causes. So the Vera comes from dosa. Yeah. So dosa is anger as a, whenever people from India say dosa, that's something, the kind of roti or the bread actually, that dosa, that's not that dosa. So dosa, D-O-S-A, dosa, is one of the three root causes of passive tendencies. The next time we will discuss that, when maybe next semester, root causes. And then there are different types of anger. Vera, that is hatred in general English terms, Vera or Vaira, that is, the Buddhist definition of hatred is long-lasting anger. Long-lasting anger, maybe that could, hatred is something. And Buddha talks about sudden burst of anger, long-lasting anger, subtle or almost invisible anger. And there are types of anger. So at this point, now that metta, maitri, is a lifelong divine principle, and it has to be part of your attitude towards the world, towards yourself and the world. First you are friendly with yourself. Someone walking on the roof?
Yes.
Maybe there are invisible classmates. So, I'm not scared, right? I love ghosts. So, that's why I love them so much. My friends always say to me, don't go to cemetery. All the ghosts will run away thinking there's a ghost here. Spirit. So, metta is, all these principles are lifelong principles, meaning you are supposed to practice them lifelong. So, Vaira, which is hatred in English, is longer lasting anger. You can't overcome that overnight. So, due to a reason, it remains. It can affect yourself, your behavior, your attitude lifelong. That's the long. So the Buddhist definition of hatred is longer anger that lasts a whole lifetime. That's the Buddhist definition of hatred. It's not normal anger. The most subtle anger is called sense of resistance. Sense of resistance is the most subtle one. That's called patiga. Even the master who has meditated all his life, the moment you ask him a question, and he would simply, very humble, He looked very humble and he would just respond to you with a very nice, very pleasant smile across his face, but that could be a sign of his fatigue, sense of resistance. You get fooled by his appearance. Fatigue is a sense of resistance. Resistance means, let's say I keep teaching you and discussing things. All of a sudden you ask me a question, then I feel nervous, then in case I think in my mind, okay, why did he ask me that question? He's not supposed to ask. If I go that far, I mean, within a split of a second, I feel kind of nervous and I wonder why he asked that question. Already I am fatigued, meaning sense of resistance. I need to resist you.
Where does ill will come in? Because a lot of these teachers, Darwin talks about this too. There's anger, hatred, and then ill will.
Ill will is
that's more of an intention, right?
Yeah, ill will is intention, and also ill will is much more powerful than hatred. But you can, your ill will can lead to a big disaster very soon. Because ill will is that you wish that somebody, for example, let's say you hear one of your colleagues got a job promotion, right? And you have ill will means, okay, when he comes to work tomorrow, may he have a car accident so that he'll be gone, so that I will get the promotion. Or you plan somebody's death. People do that. When you see crime movies, I love crime movies. So I almost never miss crime movies and any law and order series, anything. I love anything. Sometimes I never get bored. It's the same thing again and again, the same prosecutors and same attorneys and same judge and then right. So it's ill will. Ill will doesn't stay that much longer. Particularly sense of resistance is so quick and it may not last beyond a second. And then it's so quick and so instantaneous that you wouldn't notice that somebody is having fatigue. Whereas Vera is the longest anger that lasts the longest, and then fatigue is the shortest, and ill will, that is, I always remember this term ill will whenever I drive by goodwill. Right? Yeah. Goodwill. So ill will is Vyapada. That is Vyapada, and also is called Vyapada. Probably you learn in your Pali class, work and verb they come from the same linguistic roots, they arise from the same area of the tongue. So for example, if you go to India and Bangladesh, they can pronounce Vedana, V-E, they call it B, Vedana. So it's the same word, Vyapada, that means ill will. Ill will is much shorter. It doesn't stay much shorter than where hatred is. Hatred is lifelong. And Vyapada, but still, Vyapada can lead to a much bigger disaster than, or ill will can lead to a much bigger disaster than hatred. Because those who have hatred, they are very silent. Most of the time they do planning. They plan and attack. Whereas those who have ill will, they also plan. but they use their air well within a short period of time. And then sense of resistance, fatigue, it doesn't, it basically affects the very person who has it, and it easily goes unnoticed. And then fatigue is, as Buddha says, that is the best, that is the clearest, the most obvious example of ego. That's a well-known personality has. Right? If you say, let's say if you are talking to a world leader, and if you are a journalist and you ask a question, and then that leader gets offended by your question, and then he would just pay more attention to you than any other media people, and probably he would talk to you more. Why? And they will smile more with you. Why? Because he knows that he has fatigue already, and he never wants you to notice that. In order to prove that he is not angry, you talk longer, and thereby he proves that he is angry. This I always noted that in Sri Lanka, because it's a cultural thing. When I walk, when I stroll down the street, and some drunkard people approach me from the opposite side. Right? They are so drunk, and they can't stand. But in order to tell me that they are not drunk, and they would stand at ease, like this. Right? Sometimes the more drunkard they are, they would stay like this. But if we just walk, then I wouldn't even notice. And at times if I know them, I will say, okay, I know that, thank you, okay, you are drunk, right? No, I am not, then why stand like that? So that's very psychology. That's our psychobiological response to our own egoistic behavior, so that we can prove that we are otherwise. So that is fatigue. It's a very subtle one. Even my meditation training when I was a teenager, as my teacher told me, when you have ill will, you can notice and you can overcome that. When you have hatred, you can work on that. But be more careful. You need more time to deal with your fatigue. Because that's one. And then and one more thing. Then I will stop about description of anger. It is Kodha, Kodha. In Sanskrit, Krodha, Krodha. Kodha in Pali, Krodha in Sanskrit. That is the sudden burst of anger. Sudden burst of anger. Sudden burst of anger. And Buddha used the cowboy metaphor, analogy. Not sure if you use this American Western terms, the cowboy. This is like a charioteer, like a horse-driven cart. And you have the reins, you have the horse within your control, and all of a sudden the horse loses its calm, right? And it gets panicked, and so that you have difficulty controlling the horse, at the same time the cart, the chariot. So, and somehow you are so well trained, so your training is so grounded, you are well grounded, so grounded in your training. Somehow, so you can control your horse and the chariot, and so that the horse would calm down, and so that you calm down too. Right? So, and you never expected your horse to get panicked. It happens all of a sudden, either because the horse is hungry, or maybe he is scared from something, so that he was provoked by something. Otherwise, they are calm, very calm, and they are very loyal to their master. But somehow you manage to control. You are in perfect control all of a sudden. And and so that the horse getting panicked is similar to a crowded, sudden, unexpected burst in anger, burst of anger. And within a second you could have created a whole scenario, right? Somebody might got killed, and then maybe you are a world leader, you would have said a nasty word, right? Even the whole language, and then people would see that in the moment, people would see that online, right? Nowadays, especially on Facebook, right? Anything happens and you see that right away. That's called a sudden burst of anger.
In terms of these definitions of anger, where do you think being passive aggressive would fit in?
Yeah, and good. There are 12 or 8 types of anger. Passive aggressive also, there's one term is called, there are actually few terms that correspond to that term, passive aggressive. The next time I'll get to the exact terms.
So dosa is the root of all these.
Dosa is the root of yeah. And then one term is spite. Spite is one term that corresponds to passive aggressive. Spite. And you don't care, you perfectly ignore the other party. Just because you are passive. Because in passive aggressive nature you are aggressive. But aggressive nature is not manifest. And you look silent. That's why passive comes before aggressive. You are aggressive. You are not aggressive. You are not passive. You are passive aggressive. And most of the time people mistake passive aggressive people as saints. They are not saints. Actually they are much similar to psychopaths. I know some passive aggressive people do. It takes them some time so that they plan. They are mostly wordless, they are non-verbal. So next time I'll get those terms. And Buddha calls them, Buddha has given a whole lesson on masquerading tendencies of the mind. The natural tendencies of that masquerade, that manifests in a totally different garb, in a way that even the very person who are having those tendencies would think that they are spiritual tendencies. For example, one pair of them is romantic feelings manifesting as spiritual feelings. For example, a monk or a nun or a priest or a pastor chants some spiritual hymns or some poems, or gives a sermon in a deep voice, and actually wherever he goes, you go and you travel, and he goes to another continent, you will travel before him and book a hotel room, and you stay there simply because you want to listen to the same sermon again, right? Why is that? It's not spiritual. You have a romantic feeling towards him. That's how Buddha explains that. I did some ethnographic research on that, because being a monk I wanted to do that, to write some papers. Because there was one famous monk in Sri Lanka, he was very famous for poetic sermons. In Sinhala it's called Kavi Bana. Kavi means poem, sermon means, Bana means sermon, poetic, and then you chant actually, you sing poetic sermons. And then years later he got a throat cancer. And he had difficulty singing. So what happens was, and there was sharp reduction of his congregation, and people would hardly come by. When I happened to talk to one lady, and she told me, well, he can't do that like before, or like before. So meaning, you didn't actually get the spiritual message that he gave, right? What do you mean by that? Because now that he can sing like before, you don't go see him. Because basically, fundamentally, you loved his voice, not his message, right? Yeah, sure. Actually, later she accepted that. She said she was sleepless for 2 nights, and she came back to me and said, yeah, I even did some journals. Sure, that's why I stopped going to him because he couldn't sing anymore. That's an example, because he lost his voice. And most of the time, so there's a fine line between romance and spirituality. So that's why I know some. The more romantic you are more spiritual. I noticed that too. I'm not everyone, it's general. That's a type of people. Romantic / spiritual people. Romantic and spiritual people.
There's a book called Zen Boyfriends I've heard people talk about. Yeah, and I think they turned it into a play or something too.
Okay. Zen boyfriend?
Zen
Yeah,
Boyfriends.
the title.
Plural.
Yeah.
But
Plural. It looks very catchy.
Yeah. It was popular or something.
Okay, I will look into that. Zen boyfriends, right? See, so that's some explanation of the opposite tendency of metta. My second one is karuna, compassion. Karuna, the Buddhist explanation. So the karuna is the second divine principle of Brahman. Vihara. Vihara again, what vihara? I can explain vihara. V-I-H-A-R-A, viharas. Vihara means abode, living. Actually, that's your life. Vihara has a different meaning. This Mahaba, this is a vihara, monastery, temple, where monastics live. Vihara. India has a whole province by that name, Bihar. B-I-H-A-R, Bihar. B and V similar. So Bihar comes from Vihar, Bihar, Bihar, Vihara, Bihara, Bihar. That is the province of Buddhist temples in ancient times. So Vihara is living abode. That's called divine abode. Think about that term theopsychic. The term theopsychic. That's what you do when you practice these 4. You become theo. You become divine within. That's what Buddha wanted to do, want us to do. Karuna is compassion, but compassion is different. There's a slight difference between. Apparently, metta and karuna look the same, but metta is your overall attitude towards yourself and the world, that loving and lovable. That's one novel by who's that famous lady? Loving and lovable. So you are loving and lovable, and you love others and you get loved by others.
Can you repeat the word loving? What?
Lovable. Loving and lovable. That famous novel by, that's classic novels by that lady writer. Forgot that. So karuna and metta look the same, apparently look the same, but there's a sharp difference between the two. Now metta is that you consider the entire world, universe as friendly to you, even if they are not literally. But at the first place, you maintain that you are friendly to others, even if others are not friendly to you. So, and then whom should we love at the first place? Ourselves. So you start metta from yourself. So, and the most critical stage of metta is loving your enemies. Love thy neighbor. So it's very difficult. But if you are motivated to think that they are angry with me is their problem, why should I fall into their category or their boat? Let them be whatever they are. I will separate myself, but I don't agitate them. I go my own way, but I have no anger towards them. It's okay, it doesn't, as long as I love myself, their anger wouldn't be able to affect me. And even if they are not angry with you, when you are angry with them, as the whole world, you see, you see the whole world is against you. Why? Even if they are not, because you are angry at the first place, you are hateful at the first place. And opposite is, even if the whole world is hateful towards you, no, you are not hateful towards yourself, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that they are hateful towards you. Because you take care of yourself. That's why when you do metta, loving kindness meditation, may I be well, happy and fit, may I take care of myself happily. That's how we do in meditation. So I know one little girl in Tampa, Florida, and she is very hot-tempered. And every time she is angry, she would run to the backyard and sit with a teddy bear, and she would hug the teddy bear to her chest and say, "May I be well, happy and peaceful." And her mom would through the window and say, "Okay, she's practicing Bhante's lesson." So she's very hot-tempered. 8 years old, very hot-tempered. And then she would come back, when her anger is gone, she would come, get inside the home and say, "Sorry, Mom." And then Mom would say, "Well, you didn't do anything wrong to me." "Well, no, yeah, then I feel sorry for myself." So that's the first step of metta. So metta is your overall attitude towards the whole world. Karuna is only directed, only pervaded, only directed those who are in suffering, those who are going through some problems. So this is similar to metta, but different. Your target group, your target is people who need some help, some spiritual help, or some relief. And then those who are having some problems, maybe going through divorce, loss of loved one, loss of job, unemployed, ill, sick, homeless, no place to stay, no friends. And so that is when you help them. So metta is the overall love that you radiate towards the whole world, whereas karuna is still the kind of love that extend your help to someone who specifically who is going through some trouble right now.
How do you spell that one there?
Which one?
Not the metta, but the other one, the
Karuna.
K.
Karuna. Karuna.
Okay.
Yeah, karuna. That's compassion. English word is compassion.
Okay.
Is compassion. So even in the prefix, right? Grammatically, etymologically, C-O-M prefix coming together. Compassion. So that's compassion. Karuna. And I would just say in Pali, and you don't have to worry about that. Paralukke sati. When the other party, the other is in suffering, hadayam kampentiti. I get my heart moved by their suffering, is compassion. When you get moved by someone else's problems and you feel like taking some steps to help them out, it's called karuna, compassion. It just few levels too. It's like, how to say, more like similar to empathy. It's empathy.
Without being overwhelmed by their.
Exactly. That's exactly. And that's why there are two steps. First step is naturally you get overwhelmed by their problems as you try to help them out. That is compassion situation A. That's quite natural. But immediately you have to switch to compassion B. That you don't get overwhelmed. Why? Because when we approach someone to help, and then so you are presenting yourself in the way that you are central, and you are standing out there so that the party feels relieved. Okay, there's someone formidable to me. Whereas when it's okay to hug and ask they cry, you cry too. It's quite natural that situation A, that's getting over. Whereas you need to overcome that. So I know even experienced or well-trained trauma counselors, they cry. I noticed that too. Even today, no matter how much meditation I do, when I attend certain funerals, at times I become emotional because I had some friendship with the party that is dead now, or with that family. Then I take a deep breath and switch myself to situation B, and then I speak. And that's when, if you cry, as long as you cry with the suffering party, and they will cry more. It is relief to them, but it's relief, but there's no way out. So whereas you regain your position, and then maybe the position is the wrong term, situation B, composure, yeah, your composure, yes.
It's similar to the child is crying and you're going to help them.
Right.
And if you're crying along, they're just going to cry longer. and longer.
Exactly, that's right. It's quite natural. That's the natural. The first step is always natural.
Right.
Yeah. Second step is professional. Even though I hate to say that word. Do I hate? So that's the language. I don't hate. So yeah. So that's sorry, but that's how language is, right? I don't hate literally. I only mean hate when I love someone so much, then I say I hate you. At that moment it means, because it's the opposite.
I was going to mention that because this isn't a Buddhist teacher, but he mentioned that hate can sometimes come, and I don't know if I agree with this or disagree, but that hate can sometimes come out of a place of care.
Yes.
That we see something that we feel that's wrong and suffering or harmful, and we kind of hate that because it comes from a place that we want something better than what that is.
Exactly, yeah. It happens, yeah, that's right. And actually, there's another Pali term corresponds to that too. I forgot those. There's a list of types of anger. So the next time I can email you.
And then the classical phrases for cultivating each of these. There's classical phrases to say, right?
Yeah.
For each to cultivate each of
That's
these.
right, yeah. And then see the Paritva Viharati, Phari, Paritva means you live your life radiating these four on each and every cardinal and ordinal direction. For example, actually this is traditionally Buddhists observe 5 precepts, 8 precepts, 9 precepts. Whenever I have retreats for people here, they observe these 4 as precepts. Today, I would live my life radiating metta, karuna, mudita and upekkha on the eastern direction, on the western direction, and the northern, southern, cardinal, ordinal directions, so that zenith, energy, then up, and then earth, all the 10 directions, so that geometrically you are at the center point, and so that you radiate your 4 principles, 4 energies towards all the directions. And if you geometrically you are at the center of the universe, the world. When I do that with children, actually, I ask them. I even draw that on the whiteboard, like, and you are here, right? You are here type of map. You map, yourself, so you are here, and so that you radiate. So that's the next time classical phrase that he used. Paritva Viharami. I live my life radiating these 4 on these directions. Paritva means pervading, radiating. I live. Radiating these 4, I live my life. So, and Karuna is still love, but radiated to a specific group in the society. Those who need, those who want trouble, those who are going through some problems. And then, the opposite of is, so now Karuna is empathy. apathy. Because you don't care. You don't care out of ego also. It's me, this is my life, I'm not supposed to think about others. That's the phrase, the whole phrase that you come across in the explanation of ego. The only time you open your eyes and look at them is when you are suspicious of others. Because you feel you are defensive. That's when you open your eyes and look at others. Otherwise you wouldn't. That's I think that is the nastiest, superlative form, or the most nasty, I wonder if it's nastiest. So that is the type of ego. So that is apathy, ego. So that's the opposite of karuna. You don't care for others at all. Whereas when you do care, that is compassion. So
We're gonna mention the near enemies too.
sorry?
The near enemies, those are the
Yeah, that's right.
the foreign enemies, and the
Yeah.
the near enemy of what karuna is like pity, right? Like people mistake compassion for pity a lot of times.
Exactly.
It's actually
It's not
the
compassion.
same thing.
It's not the same thing. It's another masquerading tendency. It's another tricky tendency of the mind. And for many years you believe that you have been compassionate. Actually, you have not. So that's the apathy is the opposite of